What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling? The moon is in Virgo, and this is I'm still. Am I recording? Okay, dope. I just sidebar. I just moved, and I'm getting settled, and I'm definitely gonna take this moon in Virgo to get some things organized, to get things, figure out who's doing what and where, and who's staying and who's going. But I find that the moon in Virgo really is a great time for just, yeah, one, of course, getting things organized, of getting in the rituals, of checking in with the body, but there's a very analytical kind of the problem solving aspect of Virgo as well that I really think there's something just really spectacular about that, a level of expertise that comes with Virgo. And we'll talk about all that here in a moment. But if you're new here, again, my name is Justin. And when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. But this is also a place for you if you happen to have Cancer in your placements, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Mercury, wherever. This one's for you. And I do tell, or if you just want to kick it with us, we love the company, and everyone can benefit from syncing up with the moon. And I do tarot card spreads based on that lovely luminary, the good old moon. And man, I've been getting just some great lunar action. She's been out and about. Yesterday she was kind of hiding behind the clouds, but for the most part, it has been just some great lunar action. I got some astronomy to talk about with you as well. Some really cool stuff there. But I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, and when she's going to avoid. Of course, is all them lunar shenanigans. And just so y'all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it, because yeah, this has been a very this move. I got this view. I'm with it. I've been really able to connect with the sky in a different type of way. But before we jump into all that stuff, depending on when you're watching this, happy Mars Day. Mars is associated with Tuesdays, and I find that Mars days are really great for doing anything that just requires just a more energy from you. These are like my workout days, and then on non-Mars days, like I work out on Jupiter days and Sundays, I will make it a point to try to hit them during those Mars hours, depending on how the schedule is working, but try to hit them during those Mars hours to get that extra kind of oomph there. So, but this could be great moving energy, but we just say great for just like, again, getting out and about, doing things that get you energized, pursuing your passions. Those are great kind of martial things that make you feel alive. That's what Mars is about. And I'll tell you what, I was out kind of sitting outside the other day while the moon was in Cancer. It was right around the time of the first quarter phase. And yeah, I went to go look up, and then I happened to look just like right next to the moon. I was looking at this little dot there. I was just like, is that Mars? And I pulled out this app. I got this. I think it's called Sky Tonight. I'll have to include a link for that. It's a really cool app if you want to do any sort of stargazing and things. But I went to pull that out, and lo and behold, it was Mars, and that was a whole. I still kind of get chills just thinking about it. There was something really cool about that, and I really, it's nice to get into look at the charts and all these things, but nothing really compares to looking up at the sky. I saw the sun. My windows face east, or the window faces east, and so I got to see the sunrise. I haven't seen it in a couple days, but the day after I moved in, it was just like watching the sunrise was something spectacular. I've not felt emotions like that before. Man, it was just a really cool experience there. So yeah, I say anyone, get into that ritual, just like looking up, seeing what's going on in the heavens, and watch how the heavenly bodies are moving. It's really something to marvel at. But also, what I like to do with these days are think about my relationships, which definitely has changed with Mars, and think about what sign it's in, what house is it in for me, and even going through Mars transits. Mars has been going through like my 12th house, which has not been. It's gotten better, but that whole time while in Cancer was a challenge, but now it's revealed a lot, and I've found that, yeah, especially after seeing Mars, I definitely feel like it's one of those things, like even when you're working with the malefic, Saturn and Mars, when you can figure out how to work with them constructively, they can really produce some great stuff. Mars, where it's not just, yeah, on a lower level can be aggression and war, things like that, but it can also be courage and again, that you pursuing your passions, this energizing things that come with Mars there. So, but yeah, I even like to do where I know, my Mars is at like 25 and 25 degrees in 43 minutes of Leo. So I'll keep track of even like my Mars return, which will be coming up here probably in the next month or so. So that's even another thing that I like to explore and just kind of see what the new energy is coming up, and then when I get a new sort of like refreshed dose of martial energy. So that's just some ways that I like working with these planetary days. But let's get into the lunar shenanigans. Because on the 8th of April, the moon is going to enter into Virgo at about 6:40 a.m., and that's going to be Pacific time, and she's in a waxing gibbous phase. And the waxing gibbous is the time, it's right before the full moon. We're getting, the moon's really shining bright now. We're getting ready to get to the apex, the climax of this lunar cycle before we start to get into the waning half, and then we get into the reflective half of this. So if there's anything this is like that last kind of final push. If there's anything that you've been meaning to adjust or meaning to get started or needing to get, again, just kind of rearranged, or maybe just like, it's like, okay, I kind of have this vision, but like, this is a great time, especially I think with the moon in Virgo for that, because when you think about Virgo energy, Virgo they're ruled by Mercury, the planet that is associated with like how we think, how we communicate, just those are just basic things. And they are the immutable earth sign, they're receptive or yin in nature. And I find with that receptivity, Virgo has a way of analyzing a situation, just like, okay, critical thinkers. I think that's where it kind of comes in with Virgo. It's just like, okay, let's assess this situation, what's working and what's not. And the things that aren't working, can I repurpose them, or do I need to get rid of them altogether? And the things that are working solid, can I improve upon them? I find that's what Virgo is really great about. But I will say the one kind of caveat with Virgo is like, not to let perfect be the enemy of good. If something's flowing really well, I know we all have an ideal visualization of things, but sometimes we got to take, that and that's what the full moon gets ready to, the expectation versus reality. We may have these expectations, but appreciate the work that you've done, because I think that sometimes with Virgo energy, it can be very harsh on itself and think that it's not doing enough and not doing these things. So you do want to make sure that you're getting back into the body as well with the moon in Virgo. You can get very wrapped up in the tangible, and so you got to remember the body is a tangible thing too, a very earthly thing, the first earthly thing that we come to learn how to take care of. So I find that this is a great day too to just think about rituals as well when we're working about the moon in Virgo. I think routines can make it sound a little daunting. But when we think about things in terms of a ritualistic sort of standpoint, I think that changes how we can approach it. It makes it just more approachable when we're working with Virgo there. So I really enjoy the moon in Virgo. So, and look to see where you have Virgo in your chart, because I find this is a particular kind of a quieter time for me. The moon will kind of aspect my natal moon. It starts off with a square, and then I get a sextile with the sun, and it'll hit up my midheaven too. But yeah, this is more of a quieter time for me. But if you happen to have like a lot of earth placements, maybe a lot of water placements, even mutable placements, this one might be a little more active for you. So pay attention to what you're feeling during these times. Get familiar with these lunations, and even when the moon's in Virgo, if you have noticed that there's a lot, go sit out under the moon if that's available to you, if the sky's clear, and see what kind of maybe feelings come up for you during that, and maybe you get some new insights and things that, if you do have any sort of like issues that you're having troubles coming up with solutions for. Sometimes I think Virgo, it helps to get into the body again, so it can get out of the mind sometimes. So that's just some things to think about with the moon in Virgo there. I think that's all I got for you on that standpoint. So let's go ahead and get into your general energy of the day, which is a neat one. Speaking of mutable energy, you got quite a few changing lines here. So this lunation may be a bit more going on there. A lot of chances there for some changes. But you got hexagram 37 for your general energy of the day, which is the family. And if you want to check out the changing lines that you got, the changing lines are lines 3, 5, and 6. And I have a link down in the description box with a website that has these. Like, you can look up the different hexagrams and go to look to these lines. And I really would say look into like meditating on these things, when you're thinking about the I Ching, and just like see how the, because I tell you what, I'm, as I'm reading through this and I meditate on these different lines, and they change each day. You get a little bit more insight the more that you kind of run these through, and if something doesn't make sense at first, read it a bit slower than you normally would. Really kind of digest each word. Look up certain words if you're not even sure about that. Like, maybe I do I know what this, like, really get into it. I find that can get a lot of useful information. But we're going to focus on, like I said, line 3, 5, and 6. So let's start with the first line. Well, the third line. The third line talks about the family agitating. Danger is weathered, women and children laughing. A sad end comes. And I really like that. Like, it may have, if you're, depending on what you're coming to, advice that you're looking for in this reading, if things have been maybe a bit agitating in the home front, maybe it might even be amongst the family. And if this is not like your actual family, this might be maybe something in like the work family, maybe this is like the friendships family. But the danger is weathered. If there's anything that's coming through right now, it's nice when you're able to get through stuff together. We can all get through things, but it hits a lot differently when you have that group there, have people who really understand, who really can kind of empathize what you've been through, because like you're kind of like, well, since it's we're talking about a Mars day, it's almost like kind of like your brothers or sisters in arms, or things along those lines. There's just some kind of connecting there when we're thinking about the family, and there's gonna come a moment where you are able to look at the situation, whatever is going on, and you'll be able to laugh about this. That's the beauty about the moon and all of these things that go on with life. We all have these waxing and waning periods of life, and it's just learning how to balance in the two of them, how to get adjusted and to work with that, and to acclimate as things start to, as the wheel is a turning. But know that, if you feel like you're in the middle of something right now, that the times will always, that harsh time will come to an end. And I think that this is a time to really think about togetherness. Now, I'm not saying, if you're in a situation that maybe the family is the cause of that, I'm not saying we're just sticking in something, but I think that if you have people that you can band with together through whatever this maybe metaphorical storm might be happening there, I think that could be something that's very beneficial for you there. So, and maybe even need to have maybe like a family meeting, and just kind of talk about, like, hey, I know that things have been tough, we've been blah, 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 blah. And maybe doing something to kind of lighten the mood. Maybe we can go for like a family outing. Again, this could be family, friends, whatever that's looking like for you, but go for some sort of outing, something to maybe kind of lighten the mood, where we can bring in a bit of laughs and things. Like, we can be going through harsh times, of course, but we can also have those times where we can find those little pockets of joy as well, until they turn into bigger pockets of joy. So that's just what I'm getting here with that first line there. Now let's talk about line 5, because this one talks about the king comes to the house. And keep in mind, these hexagrams here, and then the tarot too, they're not gender specific readings, so just keep that in mind. But the king comes to the house. Fear not, all goes well. And so if you've noticed, like how this says the family is agitating, you may need to be the one that takes charge to bring order to the situation, and just let everyone know that it's not like fear, not like, hey, we're going to ignore the situation. It's just like, hey, this is how, just lay it out, be very matter of fact. The Virgo energy, I do find, is very like, this is what it is. It is what it is. What are we going to do about it? These are the things that we have to do. But if we do this together, we can get through this, and it's something where we, and find ways to kind of maybe split up this burden, whatever this is. If we can come at it collectively, but sometimes there may be someone who needs to take the lead and guide people through their changes. We're all different, like, how we deal with things. Maybe, I've noticed that, like, I have a lot of a whole ton of fire, a lot of, and then I got some air and then some water, but I have like no earth in my chart, no planets or no like planets in earth signs. I have my midheaven in Taurus. But I find like for me, like sometimes getting things grounded is kind of hard for me, you know, where I'm a guy of action. Like I can definitely, you tell me like, and you know, I can take action myself, but you know, it's another thing when you're trying to get things to take form. I love having people who have earth placement to kind of help me get some perspective. Like, oh, you know, I hadn't thought about that. Like, oh, I could do this. Oh, wait, I can do that. So, yeah, I think that if you, this could be a time for you to shine there, or maybe even something too, where if you, I'm even getting this kind of message here. If it's not you coming to take charge here, maybe it's helping someone get motivated to get into the charge. Like, fear not, you got this. You know, let's come home. Let's get, because you think about the home, that's the foundation. This is giving me kind of like, I'm thinking about the fourth house, which is deals with like the home, the family, parents, things like that, but more specifically that foundation. And I think that there's could be something here about reminding someone there that you have, this is again, that they got this, you know, some kind of like affirming them, if you will. Now you got now the last line here is the with the sixth line talks about to be firm in punishment brings good in the end. And with this one, I'm really getting this kind of this sense of making sure to where we're taking accountability where it needs to be had, and but not to let that be. We're not just there to just chastise someone. Maybe someone made a mistake. Let's say, for example, let's with like finances, where yeah, this may have created a serious situation, but and we can be firm with this, like, hey, going forward, we can't do this. We have to have a different game plan, blah blah blah. But when we get those things and we're firm with what, you know, like, hey, you know, because it's not giving me like a just being cruel. You know, we're not. It's like it's not like I'm picturing like the Nine of Swords. We're not getting someone where we're making them anxious, where they're blaming themselves or something. We want to get it to where, yeah, hey, you got to take accountability for this, but all's well is going to end well by the end of this. But I do think that if someone here is going to need to take charge of the situation, and if this is just something where it's just like maybe it's you who's dealing with this situation, the family could be just something maybe more internally that's going on. Again, you know, maybe be firm with yourself. Like, yeah, you know, I could have been stricter here. I could have been doing this here. But you know what? I know that going forward, there's no sense in beating yourself up in a situation if it's already happened. You know what I mean? And I know that that can be easier said than done, but all it does is just exacerbate the situation, and it pulls the energy away from finding solutions. So again, even be mindful about how you're receiving punishment. You know, just thinking about that, and when I say punishment, just like how you may be criticizing yourself, maybe chastising yourself or something, or others, and seeing how that's coming across and what good is that really doing. You know, especially if it's gotten a little martial, if it's becoming a little aggressive in things. I think that's just something to. Oh, and I didn't even mention this hexagram here is wind over fire, by the way. So you know what's wind? When I think about wind, we're thinking about the air energy, that's communication, the fire. What's fueling your words, your fire, and how can we maybe repurpose those words again to bring things in order? So, but we'll definitely get into that more here into the tarot. So let's go ahead and switch over. And yeah, like I had mentioned before, last thing, this readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings. So apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. But with the tarot, I'm going to be pulling 6 cards, and each of them are going to cover different themes there. And I will be getting clarifiers for cards 3, 5, and 6. And those were your changing lines for the hexagram there. But the first card is going to talk about your short-term money matters or anything along those lines. But keep in mind, this is not financial advice. But let's see what's going on with the monies. Nice. I'm with that. So you have the Ace of Wands here. You know, I find with the Ace of Wands, the aces are seed cards. This is not the actual energy manifested. This is the root of the powers of fire here. And this is a time, I think, to be able to start something new. So like I said, if there was something that was going on where you were in kind of a bit of a precarious situation, now how are we going to go forward? And maybe again, use that wind over fire. How can we fuel this fire in a different type of way? You know, this can be, you know, maybe come in with some new ideas there, you know, kind of doing some, let's do some critical group thinking here about this is where we want to move the energy. How can we get this change here? Because half your hexagram is changeable here. So again, there's a chance that this can go a different way, you know, and things can improve here. But I think we just have to look at the source of the inspiration, the things that's fueling the fire. Because if there's no will behind it, there's no fire, then it's hard to get things going. You know, to get motivated in things. That's where I find where I remember I had someone I was friends with, and they had quite a bit of had some earth placements and things, and that's how we complemented really well. Like I'd have all this fire, all this inspiration, and they'd help me kind of give it a vessel to kind of channel it in. You know, I could help them get motivated. And, you know, it's just kind of nice, kind of hand in hand there. So that's something I really kind of feel is what's going on with this Ace of Wands. And even with like your short-term money matters, you know, this could be something where you're thinking about a new investment, you're thinking about a new idea, you're wanting to try something new, or whatever that might be. You know, I love the Ace of Wands. I find whenever you get the Ace of Wands in something, that's a go for it. You know, for like a see where that thing's going. And yeah, I think you can really get some good results with the Ace of Wands there. But let's go ahead and get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like medical matters and things like that. But keep in mind, this isn't, you know, go talk to your doctors. Talk to your doctors, your energy healers. But let's see what's going on with the kind of medical aspect of things, how the body's working. Ooh, I'm with it. Oh, interesting. So you got the Page of Coins here. And I'm just thinking about in the Thoth deck, the page of the Princess of Disc, which is a Page of Coins, very visibly pregnant here. So the page is, that's interesting. I'm getting like something is growing here. And I feel like that's really maybe what's coming with this Ace of Wands here. It's like you're taking, how do I want to put this? I'm getting a lot with this. One, this could be where maybe if you're thinking about, let's go back to that child thing for a minute. Maybe if you're thinking about a child, or you're thinking about a family, maybe you have a family that's coming on the way. It's just like, okay, what are some last minute things that we need to get situated for? Or how prepared do we feel for this thing? That's one energy that's coming through there. I'm even getting to, there's this energy of being able to, maybe thinking about investing in your health in different types of ways there, maybe exploring different sort of avenues. Maybe you look into, maybe if you've been working with soreness, maybe you're looking into joining like a yoga class, or maybe you're looking into like chiropractic, or even like massage, something along those lines. Just something, I think, new, something nice to, I'm looking at all these ants here that are forming this bigger ant, and I think it's like looking at like specific, like maybe even tuning into the things that are building the body, that's kind of fueling the body. That's even really interesting. The stuff that maybe you're eating, the stuff that is yeah, that's just like taking form there, because the Page of Coins, this is like the earthiest of the court cards here when we're talking about this. So yeah, I think that there's an opportunity here for even just getting more intimate with the body. I'm even thinking here too, just like, exploring different exercises. I'm even getting, like, maybe if you happen to do a certain routine, this is kind of switching something up there, is what I'm really kind of getting with this kind of Page of Coins here. Let's get into your next energy, which talks about any sort of like social affairs or legal matters, but this is not legal advice or anything like that. Talk to your lawyers. Well, let's see what's going on there. Ooh, look at this, and we'll get a clarifier on this. You got the Fool here, and for me with this one, I got with like, when it comes to social affairs, I think that this can be a great time to get out there, to start something new. Even got with the Page of Coins. This could be, I got like an energy of like reinventing yourself even with this energy here. exploring different facets of yourself, maybe even here with this kind of this combination here. And it might, and it's interesting. It's like when it comes to the medical, kind of medical side of it, this could be where, maybe you've been feeling a lot of anxiety around this or something, but now there's a chance to just like, you go out there, you find that courage, and then just something new happens. You feel the sense of relief, like, oh, that wasn't that bad. Maybe I can go do this again or try something more. But let me get a clarifier with this Fool here. That's interesting. I even got this kind of message here where if we're starting up any sort of like legal matters, maybe this could be like a marriage, or again, if this is like a little toddler, I'm just thinking like something coming into the world here. It's just like, of course, getting like any sort of like documents and things together with that, but just like a new chapter, I feel like is starting up here. But let's get ooh, how interesting. So the Fool card is clarified by the universe, which is the World card. And that's interesting because the Fool card is air energy, the universe is earth, and this is Saturn as well when we're talking about the universe. And it's like, that's so interesting. It's like something, it's closing out. It's like in order to start something new, or how do I want to put this? It's like in starting something new, it's like something old is closing behind you, and it's creating this new type of opportunity for you here with the Fool to the universe here. And this universe is even giving me, if you've been holding off on wanting to start something new, because I'm even getting like maybe you've wanted to get some documents, maybe you're thinking about moving, possibly maybe thinking moving, the Fool standing on the world here, which is very interesting. But maybe you're thinking about changing into a different location, possibly. Maybe you're thinking about the immigration process, what that might be looking like. That might be something that could be coming up there. Maybe you want to get property somewhere else. Maybe you might, maybe you're on a vacation and you happen to meet someone with like oh, that's interesting, like a family, like a partner may come up, traveling abroad. That might even be something there, an end to your singlehood and coming into this more kind of co-creative sort of relationship here. But something is coming to, it's literally like one door is closing, another one is opening with this. And this could be maybe even making, again, joining like a new group, maybe going out with hanging out with friends that you've not hung out with or before, like something along those lines. There's what I'm really kind of getting with this. And maybe even too, this could be the end of just like a fresh start, maybe after like a legal battle. Maybe there was like when I was thinking about the child, maybe there was something with like custody, maybe that was going on there. And now we're in this place of where, we're just starting up something fresh, that legal battles are behind, or at least they're getting ready to end, and a new chapter is beginning here. So that's something. I think that's something there. But let's get into your next card, which talks about any sort of like romantic matters, marriage, things along those lines, relationships. Ooh, that's lovely. So you have the Three of Cups here, and look at everyone kind of gathered at the table here, enjoying some tea. How they're enjoying this tea, I'm not sure, but it's fine. This one's got it figured out. But I find that this could be a great time, I think, to just feel abundant in your relationship, and to maybe have some sort of like heart to hearts there. Not one that's like, we may be reflecting on, again, maybe the tough times that have happened, but knowing that like, hey, at least we're in this thing together. We're figuring this stuff out, and we're going to get through this. This is just one chapter, but this is going to come to a close here. New energy is going to come in. And I think there's even just like a need to just get out there and do something nice for yourself, especially if or or even in your relationships. Like this could be out there, just go out and do something that gets you feeling abundant, being out amongst people, about merriment and things along those lines. That can help really kind of, again, we bring some sort of like inspiration or some sort of like a sense of like get you out of I find when you remove yourself, if you're dealing with a certain problem, if you've been ruminating on it for a while and you've just been kind of hitting your head up against a wall, you gotta remove yourself from it from a bit, and getting out there to get a fresher perspective, a different viewpoint here as far as like where the direction of this thing is going, whatever the situation is here. And again, you might need to maybe call on some friends or maybe some help there. Maybe maybe if this is just you, it's again talking to some family, whatever that might be looking like. But excuse me, you know what, this could even be too where maybe you've been thinking about like, do I want to propose to someone? Possibly this could be where you're just like getting yeah, like setting up like some sort of surprise is what I'm getting. Like maybe you invite some friends over and make it seem like, oh, this is just going to be just like another get together, but really you're going to be doing this whole big announcement. And, it's just something I'm getting there too. I think that there may be a great time, whether for marriage or just for getting out there and socializing in general. Just getting out there and put yourself out there, try something new. And it doesn't maybe just necessarily have to be in love, but I think that that would help, especially with the Fool here. This is just some things to think about. Now let's get into your fifth card, which talks about any sort of like immediately pressing affairs. So you have the Page of Swords here. And this, to me, the Page of Swords has a lot on their mind. I think that there's some things that are maybe needing to be dealt with. I would say the Page of Swords sometimes, this for me can be a bit of a combative card sometimes. So I would be careful about just like how your words maybe land, especially if there's been some frustrations and things like that, the family's feeling agitated and things like that. But this could be the Page of Swords too is just a curious type of energy, and that might be something too where maybe you're needing to look for a new source of getting some new lines of a new line of thought coming through is what I'm getting, if that makes sense. Like if it's been sort of the same old things kind of playing in your head, that's interesting. Then there's just like this need to kind of change something kind of up there with this Page of Swords. I also think too that again there's something about this situation that's going to require some brain power here. Some whatever any sort of immediately pressing things is going to require maybe some research. And maybe where you find yourself with all these birds, where you maybe find yourself just kind of scattered all over the place. So this way, if you can find a way to get focused, especially if you've been feeling, just like a lot's been maybe on your plate here, this moon in Virgo, for example, can be a great one to get to dip into the body. Like, so what, my nervous system has been really kind of on one lately. I've been just really just kind of like, I haven't been taking the time to just get regulated again, to feel this level of feeling kind of centered here and kind of clear-headed. So that's another thing to think about. But let's get a clarifier with the Page of Swords and see what's going on with that. Wow. Interesting. A lot of air energy here. You got the Prince of Swords here. And I am getting an energy here of just like combativeness. Like I would say I'd be mindful of how your words land. Because the Page is to talk about, this is a perfect debating type of energy with the Page of Swords to the Prince of Swords. But it's just like, is their debate constructive? Because I could see, the danger can be weathered, but that's only if we band together. If not, it could just end up just being some shakiness, and the situation just gets worse. And then this Ace of Wands is getting channeled somewhere else, and then the conversation, there's this discord that's happening as opposed to concord with the Three of Cups here. So, yeah, that's something something that I would pay attention to with this. But I also think there's two here about again, a planning sort of energy where it's time to get something moving. You know, especially again, we're right getting ready before we're getting before the full moon here. So if you've been putting off something, procrastinating in some sort of way, I think this is the time to wrap your head around like, okay, you know, I really need to get this thing in gear here. Well, again, whatever this thing is here, because you know, time's moving. You know, it's. I'm looking at the hourglass. Time's moving. So yeah, just something to. And you know, maybe there has been a lot of just like thoughts and just a lot of air that's just been going around. And again, the king needs to come to the house and maybe get that air, just some kind of order, or just so yeah, some kind of structure there. But let's get to your last card, which talks about the kind of destiny or the karma of the situation. Interesting. So you have the Ace of Swords here. And you know, I think that I'm getting one with the destiny here. It's more of a kind of like a learning thing. Like as far as like learning the power of how strong the mind can be in a certain situations with the choices that we make. You know, again, the aces are the roots of things. So I would take this maybe this time over this Virgo lunation just again to kind of evaluate maybe the decisions that you have made, the choices that have made, and the consequences that have come for that, and whatever that's looking like for you, whether they move things along or maybe they set things back. I would just kind of look at that and then just how are you going to go forward from this? You know, this is not giving just like a, you know, the Desi is just like set in stone. Like it's presenting you an opportunity to again to reflect on this. The Virgo energy is the Virgo's associated with the Hermit in tarot. So again, reflecting, like just thinking about just yeah how you can go about moving forward is what I think. Like and even like a certain idea, I think is trying to manifest here. Like things can be different because you got this airy, this very airy pocket over here. But overall, the energies are pretty well dispersed. You know, overall, you got a little bit of fire, air, water. Let's get a clarifier for this Ace of Swords here. Ooh, interesting. Speaking of airy pocket, you got Gemini here, the lovers. And that's interesting. You know, the lovers is a choice card. And I really think that there's something here. Whatever the situation is, like all of them talks about things going, a sad end comes, all goes well, brings good to an end. You know, like all things are going to end well, but I do think that it's from making more prudent choices. You know, I don't think that it's just going to go well. It's not just going to resolve itself just because. You know, if we ignore it, it goes away. We have to make some sort of like conscious action towards these changes here, towards this evaluation as far as like maybe what you've been attracting here. Gemini is able to see the duality of things, and this is the other Mercury ruled sign, Gemini here. And it can be a lot of thoughts that are going through with when we're thinking about the just Gemini and thinking about the lovers here. Yeah, but there's an invitation to make a difference, for things to change, you know, for things to be brought to order in a sense. All right, let's get some advice from Mercury. Nice. All right, so you got the Eight of Coins here. And you know, whatever the situation that you're going through here, I think it's going to be something that is going to require a lot of work. The Eight of Coins is really just kind of busyness, just kind of hitting. This is the Sun in Virgo here. And this is, it's, I'm getting this energy of here, you're doing maybe a lot behind the scenes, and it's not doing it for the recognition. You know, I think that there's just, you got to do, this is giving like you got to do what you got to do. with this Eight of Coins, and that's interesting. An interesting message that's coming through there. But you know, these changes that are happening, this all that's going well, this, you know, again, two women and children are going to be laughing at the end of this. That's very Three of Cups. But I think that it's going to be something that we're going to have to work to get things back to that, not things back to the way things were, but better. You know, I think that that's something there, because I think that, you know, sometimes too that can lead to the choice that I want to go back to the way things was. Well, we can't. That's not possible. You know, like it's you can never really recreate that same situation. The conditions are always changing. But I think there's just like, how can I improve? Remembering that previous thing, how can I improve on that? Oh, you know, hold on. Let's go ahead, and I think this is time where I switch over. But yeah, this is, you know, so that's another thing I think to think about as well with this Eight of Coins here. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. A little something to kind of meditate on. But yeah, if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And I probably, you know, I'm getting things situated here. This is like my first reading in this space here, so I'll have a better flow over these next couple readings here. But and if you, what is that? Yeah, give it a, oh, and share this if you know somebody who could get some nuggets of wisdom from this. And then subscribe there, you fool. And I mean that in the best possible way, the curious one. Hit that bell button to get notified when I release videos each day. And then I'm going to get your surprise card or cards here. But if you want to go what's going on with the other celestial bodies, down in the description box is a link for my other channel, Alchemist 8, where I do weekly videos coming out. They come out actually on every Mercury day. And it just talks about the transits and what signs the celestial bodies are in, and just how to work with them, you know, just more. Bring that, how to put them into practical application. Very Virgo. But how to put those energies to application, where this stuff might be coming up in your chart, and what to do with them. And then I also have this series where I'm doing different planets and different signs and different houses as well. So that I have those all by playlist. I got these 12-sided dice that I've been rolling and just been rolling with it. So definitely check that out for you. But let's go ahead and get into your surprise card. Interesting. Which you have the touch card here. It's one of the sensory cards in this deck, and you know, I think that this could be where I'm getting just a very hands-on approach to something. You know, maybe things have been just very mental here, and now it's time to make things just more tangible. You know, to make things just to come with a more grounded approach. It's time to get out of the head and just start making moves. Is what I'm getting to get to the work, you know, with that Eight of Coins, even that Fool to the universe. Let's get through this chapter. Let's get this thing done. It may not be right now, it may not be feeling great, but it's like in the end, it's gonna feel a lot different, and you're gonna have a different kind of grip on the reins in a sense. You know, feel a bit more. Maybe even if not in control of the situation, in control of yourself, and be able to manage yourself in the evolving, in the changes that may have been going on around you, so that you can make more well-informed choices and things like that. And I even think too, if you do find yourself where things have been maybe just a lot that's going on, doing some things that are working with your hands, maybe doing some knitting, or, you know, I'm thinking about Gemini or Virgo, you know, doing maybe just like some knitting, or maybe like working with some clay, tending to plants, you know, just, you know, working with the earth, something along those lines, or whatever that might be. Maybe playing an instrument, you know, anything kind of tactile. I think there's something even there in that can kind of help as well. That's interesting. I'm getting kind of drawn to the roots that are coming out of this hand here as well. And and it's like connecting with the situation differently. because there's this eye on this hand, and it's like, when you're closing your eyes and you're feeling something out, you can get an idea of what that shape is. It's helping you to, and that might be something, maybe a good visualization exercise. Maybe you put up, that's interesting. This is just random. Take it if it resonates, just a little something that's popping in my head. But taking like a little box of things and just kind of closing your eyes and just kind of feeling stuff like, what is this? That might be like a game that maybe you can play amongst the family or something kind of fun there. That's just something that I'm getting there. I think I used to do that as a kid's game that was something like that. But just take that if it resonates. But I think that's all I got for you. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon, just at that sky. And I will catch you. Oh, so I'm going to do this. On the next one, when am I going to catch you? Jupiter Day.